Scientists have evidence of the existence of life after death. They found that consciousness can continue after death. Although this topic is treated with great skepticism, there are testimonies of people who have experienced this experience that will make you think about it. Dr. Sam Parnia, a professor who has studied the experience of clinical death and cardiopulmonary resuscitation, believes that a person's consciousness can survive brain death when blood does not enter the brain and there is no electrical activity. Since 2008, he has collected a lot of evidence about near-death experiences that occurred when the human brain was no more active than a loaf of bread. According to the visions, conscious awareness persisted for up to 3 minutes after the heart stopped. Although the brain usually shuts down within 20 to 30 seconds after the heart stopped. You may have heard from people about the feeling of separation from your own body, and they seem to you a fiction. American singer Pam Reynolds has spoken about her out-of-body experience during brain surgery, which she experienced at the age of 35. She was placed in an artificial coma. Her body was cooled to 15 degrees Celsius, and her brain was practically deprived of blood supply. In addition, her eyes were closed, and headphones were inserted into her ears, which muffled the sounds. Hovering over her body, she was able to observe her own operation. The description was very graphic. She heard someone say, "Her arteries are too small," and the song, "Hotel California," by the Eagles was playing in the background. The doctors themselves were shocked by all the details that Pam told about her experience. One of the classic examples of near-death experience is a meeting with deceased relatives on the other side. Researcher Bruce Grayson believes that what we see when we are in a state of clinical death is not just vivid hallucinations. In 2013, he published a study in which he indicated that the number of patients who met deceased relatives far exceeded the number of those who met living people. Moreover, there were several cases when people met a dead relative on the other side, not knowing that this person had died. Internationally recognized Belgian neurologist Stephen Loris does not believe in life after death. He believes that all near-death experiences can be explained through physical phenomena. Loris and his team expected that near-death experiences would turn out to be similar to dreams or hallucinations and eventually become erased from memory. However, he found that the memories of clinical death remain fresh and vivid regardless of the past time and sometimes even overshadow the memories of real events. In one study, researchers asked 344 patients who had experienced cardiac arrest to describe their experiences during the week after resuscitation. Of all the people surveyed, 18% could hardly remember their experience, and 8 to 12% gave a classic example of near-death experiences. Dutch researcher Pim van Lommel has studied the memories of people who have experienced clinical death. According to the results, many people lost the fear of death, became happier, more positive and more sociable. Almost everyone talked about clinical death as a positive experience that further affected their lives over time. American neurosurgeon Eben Alexander spent 7 days in a coma in 2008, which changed his opinion about near-death experiences. He claimed that he had seen something that was hard to believe. He said that he saw the light and the melody coming from there. He observed something like a portal to a magnificent reality filled with waterfalls of indescribable flowers and millions of butterflies flying through this scene. However, his brain was shut down during these visions to the extent that he should not have had any glimpses of consciousness. Many have questioned Dr. Eben's words, but if he is telling the truth, perhaps his experiences and the experiences of others should not be ignored. Authors Kenneth Ring and Sharon Cooper described that people born blind can regain their sight during clinical death. They interviewed 31 blind people who had experienced clinical death or out-of-body experiences. At the same time, 14 of them were blind from birth. However, they all described visual images during their experiences, whether it was a tunnel of light, deceased relatives, or watching their body from above. According to Professor Robert Lanza, all possibilities in the universe happen simultaneously. But when the observer decides to look, all these possibilities come down to one, which happens in our world. Thus, time, space, matter and everything else exists only thanks to our perception. If this is the case, then such things as death cease to be an irrefutable fact and become only a part of perception. In fact, although it may seem that we are dying in this universe, according to Lanza's theory, our life becomes an eternal flower that blooms again in the multiverse. Dr. Ian Stevenson has researched and recorded more than 3,000 cases of children under the age of 5 who could remember their past lives. In one case, a girl from Sri Lanka remembered the name of the city she was in, described in detail her family and home. Later, 27 out of 30 of her statements were confirmed. However, none of her family and acquaintances were in any way connected with this city. Stevenson also documented cases of children who had phobias associated with a past life, children who had birth defects reflecting how they died, and even children who flew into a rage after recognizing their killers.